This is our little secret.
I can't believe this shit.
We tell no one.
Creating epoxy resin tables is an incredible craft that opens up endless possibilities for creativity. The results can be breathtaking, but here's the kicker. Those prefabricated molds, silicone, HDPE, they're friggin' expensive. But don't worry, everybody here at Super Clear's got you covered. Hey everybody, it's Alan with Super Clear Epoxy. Today we're gonna show you the quickest, simplest way to make a mold without breaking the bank. Let's get started. First, figure out how big your mold's gonna be. I mean, one, it's preference. Two, you're gonna be looking about how long your wood is, right? Like, so this is roughly about 49 3/4, but I'm thinking I'm probably gonna do like 50 inches, right? 50 inches long, it'll give me stuff to play with. My width is gonna be probably 40. First things first, what's the best material? You can use plywood, you can use melamine, you can use a variety of materials. What I typically do, which is the easiest, is I get a sheet of melamine, I cut it down to size, and then cover it in tape or use a paste wax. Does the size of the mold matter for the material? I would say no. If you're using melamine, you can go from a very small mold to a very large mold as long as you can support that mold and make sure it doesn't sag and make sure it's level, then you're just fine. Also, before we get started, I want to give a special shout out to Sean over at Black Forest Sawmill up there in VA. He provides us with a lot of our wood, and I just wanted to say thanks. And if you guys are looking for good wood, go see Sean. The first step was to measure the melamine sheets I had. Each sheet was 47 by 97 inches. So in that moment, I realized we had our first problem.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
I had assumed one sheet would be enough to build this entire mold, but it became clear that I needed two. One for the base and one for the side. Luckily, we bought two sheets just in case something went wrong. The first lesson, always double check your measurements before buying materials. It's the old adage, measure twice, cut once. Instead, this time, I ended up measuring about 4 times and cut 28 times. So we bought our melamine from Home Depot, and I gotta tell you, this might have been the worst mistake we made. You're probably wondering why, right? Stick around, and I'll tell you exactly what went wrong. I decided to start with the base of the mold. I marked the melamine with a pencil and started cutting it with my circular saw. That's when everything went wrong. I noticed the cut wasn't straight, so I grabbed the wooden board we had lying around and used it as a guide to fix it. I managed to straighten the cut, but it was too late. The mold ended up shorter than 50 inches. Man, I was pissed. It was frustrating and kind of funny at the same time.
This is our little secret.
I can't believe this shit.
We tell no one.
The next day, I came back ready to tackle the project. We weren't gonna give up over a small mistake. So on my way to work, I just popped into Lowe's and grabbed a clamp edge tool so I could cut straight lines on that melamine. Oh, and of course, I picked up another melamine sheet because I had already messed up one the day before. Starting to see a pattern? I bought the first melamine sheet at Home Depot and the second one at Lowe's. Is that all right? Could that be a problem? You'll see why by the end of the video. With this new tool, everything was so much easier. I made my marks, I cut straight lines, it was perfect on the first try. Using a circular saw with a straight edge guide is an affordable way to get the job done, especially since a new track saw can be much more expensive. After making the cuts, I checked the measurements and the diagonals, and my mold base was spot on, 40 by 50 inches. One important tip, when marking and cutting, don't forget to account for the distance between the edge of the saw and the blade, as well as the blade's thickness. Even tiny mistakes like that can throw off your whole mold. The next day I got to work on the sides of the mold. I want to point out though, that the week we filmed this project, I was super busy, which is why it took me several days to finish. I can only dedicate about 30 minutes a day to it. That said, this is definitely something you can knock out in about 3 hours if you have the time to do it all at once. It's not that hard. When I measured my second melamine sheet, I noticed it was also 47 by 97 inches, even though I had bought it from a different store. But here's the catch, and luckily, we caught it in time. It was a different thickness. The first sheet was 5/8 inches thick, while the second one was 3/4 inch. This is really important because the thickness of the melamine base affects the total height of your mold. Plus, you need to account for that extra thickness when cutting two of the mold sides. This way, when you attach all 4 sides to the base, you won't end up with gaps. Here are the cuts I decided to make. I chose to make the sides 4 inches tall, keeping in mind that the base of the mold was 5/8 inches thick. I cut 2 pieces at 40 by 4 inches and 2 pieces at 50 3/4 by 4 inches to account for the thickness of the melamine I was using for the sides. Be careful if your cuts aren't perfectly straight. Make sure your edges are even, and if they're not, do another cut to fix them. It's always important to start with a straight line before moving on to your sides, just like I did here. And here it is, the final product.
So what is the next step? Well, that depends on what mold release you're gonna choose. So if you're gonna choose tape, you're gonna wanna tape at this point before you put it all together. Now, if you're choosing a paste wax or a spray, what you're gonna wanna do is put it all together, silicone all the seams, and then apply it. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna go ahead and use tuck tape. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on one side of each of these as well as the bottom of the mold. And then we'll put it all together, silicone the seams, and then it's ready to go in 24 hours. If you're gonna silicone the seams, definitely give it 24 hours before pouring. Otherwise you'll leak everywhere. Let's get after it. So the important thing with this is make sure it's as flat as possible. So if you get a seam like this, that's gonna show up in your pour. So go ahead and take the time to get it as flat as possible. Otherwise, you're gonna be dealing with that later.
The best option to me, in my opinion, is either tuck tape or construction sheathing tape like Tyvek tape. You can use clear packing tape for this, sure, but not all tapes are made the same. Some work better than others, and some can really be difficult removing from the mold. I recommend using construction sheathing tape like Tyvek tape or tuck tape for the best results.
All right, so we've finished taping this. So now I'm gonna go ahead and start putting this together.
Assembling the mold is pretty straightforward. I just placed the sides around the base, grabbed a screw. In some cases, you can drill a pilot hole if need be. You just grab a screw, screw it in. One quick tip, make sure everything is lined up properly before assembling. Otherwise, the mold will not stay square and tight. That's it, simple and effective.
All right, everybody, we've covered our mold with tuck tape or Tyvek or construction sheathing, then put it together. It's all assembled, ready to go. The last step is really just applying some silicone caulking. Get some rags, you're gonna clean up the edges as well. So you're just not gonna slop it on there. You wanna clean it up, because remember, whatever the surface is like now is what your pour is gonna cure to. So let me go ahead and start putting the silicone on, and yeah.
Once the mold was assembled, I applied a thin bead of silicone to all the inside edges. This step is crucial to prevent any epoxy from leaking out of the mold. A quick tip, use your finger or a small tool to smooth out the silicone for a clean and even seal. Make sure there are no gaps, as even a small pinhole can cause problems later. Give it 24 hours to cure before pouring.
All right, guys, so that brings us to the end of our how to build a mold video. We've built it, we've constructed it. It's just gotta sit for 24 hours to cure, and we're on to the next video, and we'll be using this bad boy in it. Definitely like, subscribe to our channel. That way you'll get notifications when that does come out. So thanks for sticking around with Super Clear Epoxy and me, Alan. Remember, you can coat better, be better, pour better. Super Clear. Thanks. We'll see you.